just wanna be okay, be okay, be okay. I just wanna be okay.
Both men and women should have an equal opportunity of succeeding in the arts in modern society, but there is still a gap in equality between men and women in the arts. The gaps in equality include difference in economics, numbers of males and females who hold degrees in art, and females represented in art exhibits. Art should be judged on talent, not on what someone's gender is. Artists make art to express their feelings. They paint, draw, sing, write, and even use computers, usually called graphic design. They dance, sculpt, carve, photograph, and create musical pieces. Artists use their creativeness to make beautiful masterpieces. History shows some examples of why this inequality exists. Jeannie Shubits highlights some of these examples in her article, Women, Art, and Gender: A History. She notes that for many centuries we have been taught that all great art was the product of men, and that art created by women was merely an attempt to copy the masters that came before. For many, many hundreds of years, women struggled to gain recognition as artists, and for the greater number of these years, they remained obscured due to the constraints of the patriarchal society. Patriarchy is a social system in which the male is the primary authoritative figure who is central to the social organization, and where the fathers hold authority over women, children, and property. Since antiquity, women have created art and not received recognition for doing so. Shubits points to the Renaissance, 1450 to 1600 AD, as a key example. This period of time in art history was dominated by an aristocratic society that recognized women artists, but did so in rare cases and always as having significantly less stature as artists than men. It was no longer believed that women were incapable of creating great art, yet the rarity of the event was made evident by the lack of noted women artists of the time. And if they were noted, their work was considered a lesser form of art. Sophonisba Anguissa, for example, was one of the finest portrait painters of the Renaissance, and considered the first woman artist of the time. Society considered her a novelty and a child prodigy, a fact that likely contributed more to her success than did her talent. Shubits further notes that it is difficult to obtain a proper history of women in art because many records have been manipulated, and a greater number of works by women have been credited to their male teachers or relatives, as it was believed that no truly great art could be created by a woman. A large number of artists from antiquity remain unknown, and many are of the opinion that perhaps Anonymous was a woman. While it was easier to see inequality in historic examples, there are still gaps in inequality in today's society. 51% of all visual artists are female. Male artists make 68.6% of the total art income, and the average salary for male artists is $61,000 a year. The average salary for female artists is $44,000 a year, and male artists receive 73% of grants or fellowships. The gaps even exist in higher education. Women hold 53% of degrees in art, yet 80% of art faculty are men. Finally, the gaps appear in art museums. Only 4% of museum acquisitions are of work by women artists. Art museums average 15% women in curated exhibits. History and other examples today tell us one thing about women in art that might feel discouraging, but Cindy Fraser Johnson's story tells us something more inspiring. Even though she was not encouraged to pursue her career, she still followed her interest, and she has never had any problems involving discrimination or sexism at work. Cindy works as a graphic designer at a small design company in South St. Paul, Minnesota. The title of her job is Project Manager in Archer. Cindy has been working for 20 years as a graphic designer, but has been working at the company in St. Paul for 2.5 years. When she was growing up, she didn't have much support from her family. People were always telling her that this wasn't a good path to take. They were worried that she wouldn't succeed and make enough money to support herself in the future. But Cindy was still determined to follow her dream, and in high school she took a lot of art classes. Even then, people didn't encourage her creativity. She now has a successful career and believed in herself. Cindy recommends this profession for women because there is little discrimination and an equal balance of men and women, so that it makes it easier for women to succeed and feel comfortable in their workplace.
Two other successful women artists are Frida Kahlo and Georgia O'Keeffe. Frida Kahlo's life began and ended in Mexico City, in her home known as the Blue House, and is perhaps best known for her self-portraits. She gave her birth date as July 7, 1910, but her birth certificate shows July 6, 1907. Kahlo had allegedly wanted the year of her birth to coincide with the year of the beginning of the Mexican Revolution, so that her life would begin with the birth of modern Mexico. Her work has been celebrated in Mexico as emblematic of national and indigenous tradition and by feminists for its uncompromising depiction of the female experience and form. Georgia O'Keeffe was born near Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, where she first came to the attention of the New York art community in 1916, several decades before women had gained access to art training in America's colleges and universities, and before any of its women artists were well known or highly celebrated. Within a decade, she had distinguished herself as one of America's most important modern artists, a position she maintained throughout her life. As a result, O'Keeffe not only carved out a significant place for women painters in an area of the American art community that had been exclusive to and is still dominated by men, but also she had become one of America's most celebrated cultural icons well before her death at age 98 in 1986. The facts of history and modern society show us that there are obstacles for female artists. However, there are some examples of women who are overcoming those obstacles and succeeding in the arts. Cindy Fraser Johnson, Frida Kahlo, and Georgia O'Keeffe are some women who have done just this.
I just wanna